What's up, clean freaks? It's Hank Balch here. Thank you for joining us for this special series of interviews with Matthew Richardson. We're going to be talking about real estate, sterile processing, and the relation between these two very interesting topics. To kick us off here on episode 1, let's meet Matthew. If you are not familiar with him, you may have seen him or heard him on the Beyond Clean platform before, but if this is your first time, Matthew, welcome to Beyond Clean. And who are you?
Thank you. Yes, Matthew Richardson. I am a sterile processing supervisor in our industry by night and a real estate investor by day.
So let's start at the beginning. How'd you get into sterile processing? And then I'll ask the other question, or maybe you can answer that question. How'd you get into real estate? Let's just kind of start there.
Yeah, sure. So I got into real estate. Me and my wife moved to Louisville, Kentucky, and we were renting from a family in our church who was real estate investors. And I got interested in the topic, started asking them questions, and since I had a built-in landlord slash mentor, it thrust me into the industry of investing quite quickly. And so that's what struck my interest, and then we took it from there.
And so were you doing sterile processing before that, or did you start after you had begun your sterile processing career?
Yeah, very well. So I was when I got started in investing, I was working as a technician on the evening shift. So I was in sterile processing for about maybe 10 months before I got started investing.
So, an important question for those watching this series or listening is today, is Matthew Richardson a millionaire?
No, not yet.
Good. That was a softball. It was dot 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 and not yet. Okay, so do you need a lot of money to get started in this? Obviously, the goal is uh, it's fun, it's enjoyable, but you're doing this investing to get a return on your investment to make that journey of income growth. But you don't need to be rich to begin the process. Is that a fair definition?
It is very fair. In fact, let me tell you how little I started with and be transparent there just to let people know how possible it is. I was clearing maybe $1,100 biweekly with a family and two kiddos, and I had $400 in my checking account when we pursued our first house. I was very grateful. My wife did have $10,000 shoved away in a 401k from a previous job. And so, one thing you can do in real estate is if it's your first house purchase, you can use your 401k without penalty. So, we used that for a down payment. And one thing that was big for me is I didn't want to purchase other people's profits and then roll it into a loan. So, I wanted a home that wasn't remodeled. And I borrowed money from friends and family in the church to remodel the home that we purchased. We increased the value. We bought it at 105. We put $30,000 into it. We increased the value to 155, and then I took a home equity line of credit out on the remaining value of the home for $50,000. Had access to pay friends and family back, and then they said, "Hey, 0% interest, you keep rolling." And so we used that home equity line to invest in more properties. And so we did it with $400, a few connections. Granted, we had some friends with some money, but there's always ways to get in right where you are. It just depends on strategy.
Yeah, so we're going to get into a lot of those terms and those strategies that you threw out. Home equity loan, right? Like that's kind of like you start talking in those categories, and I'm like, okay, my eyes glaze over, and I'm like, what does that actually mean? What does it look like? Like, what are the risks? What's the amount you can get? Everything. Like, we'll get into more of that as this series continues, but just setting that stage, I think that's going to really hit home for a lot of folks in sterile processing, because one of the questions may be, why on a sterile processing channel are we talking about something as random as real estate? and obviously the intersection is in you and your experience, because you're coming both from that perspective as a sterile processing professional. Then you told your story of, hey, um, in this moment in my career in sterile processing, I decided that we're going to go this route. There's a lot of different routes you can go with investing. There's a lot of different things you can do with your money, but you decided to go in the real estate. And I just love the story. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that are now getting interested in this topic for various other reasons outside of our industry. So yeah, that's kind of my purpose for this series and for getting you on the show to share these insights. But um, in this initial episode and interview, kind of set the cookies on the lowest shelf for me, and let's just say, like, how would you define real estate investing? We kind of throw that out as if everyone knows, but what is investing in real estate versus just buying a home?
Yes, yes, and I think we know this well from the sterile processing industry. Sometimes definitions vary depending on who you ask. Um, but I think broadly and most generally, real estate investing is either there's a few different means, but real estate investing is purchasing or leveraging loans on real estate property, land, etc., for the hope of a future return. And then, of course, people get picky about definitions. If you talk to Robert Kiyosaki, which I agree with, if you're living in the home, it's not quite an investment. It's a liability. You're responsible for all the repairs. You're not building any reserves for it. But most broadly, it's the purchasing of homes for the sake of getting a return on them. And of course, you can do that in various means, right? You can buy REITs, you can buy real property, you can buy land, you can buy industrial buildings. So broadly speaking, it's that.
I was planning on asking this at the end of the interview, but I'll ask it now because you mentioned Robert Kiyosaki. Is that, I know, like, he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Is that correct? Okay.
That is.
So, what other, like, early resources as you were going through this journey? Like, obviously, you had the mentor that you mentioned, that could kind of share this. But what other resources did you start with that kind of sparked more interest? You started gleaning some of these insights that you've gathered through the years.
Yeah, yeah. I think like most people who become rookie real estate investors in their initial stages, they turn to bigger pockets real estate. So that was a big resource. Podcasts, books. You probably know Brandon Turner. He's the what Hank Balch is to Beyond Clean. Brandon Turner is to bigger pockets real estate. So very key figure in the industry. And so a lot of their books, anything that they sell, any book that they sell is worthy of your time. So it just depends on the strategy you're interested. So just poured through their resources, probably read about, I don't know, 5 books, maybe should have read more and then got started.
Is it Elon Musk that says, like, launch at 80%, or like one of those guys, right? So yeah, you don't need to get it
Yeah.
perfect, just go.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's what we did.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been a fantastic kind of introduction to this topic. If you're interested in real estate investing and sterile processing and the crossover between the two, you're going to want to hang with us through the rest of this series. We're going to be talking about, hey, can anyone become a real estate investor? That's kind of what it sounds like, but we'll answer that question here in episode 2. And we'll talk about what are the basic skills or qualities, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror, that it would take to do this well. And of course, we're going to dive into all of those categories and jargon and insights that Matthew's kind of been alluding to here. We'll start defining even more of those terms, give you the vocabulary, the resources, and the path to go your own way in this journey of real estate investing. So, want to thank you for tuning in. If you've got questions for Matthew, put them in the comment section. We'll make sure that they get to him. And Matthew, if they just want to reach out to you directly, how can they do so?
Find me Matthew Richardson on LinkedIn is the best way to connect. I'm very active there.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. This is going to do it for episode 1, and we'll talk to you here soon on episode 2.